Hello viewers, my name is Isaac Okwen. I am from Organiso, and today we are in one of our farms that is in Lera City West. And what we are going to talk about basically is use of cover crops. And as you can see behind me here, we have our Chloris Guyana that we had planted. And this Chloris is as effective as you are an undisturbed forest when it comes to soil erosion management. So if you have an unbare land that you are not putting into use, or instead of leaving your land bare, you can choose to establish Chloris Guyana like this, so that it will help you very much when it comes to controlling soil erosion. So what happens usually is that as the rain hits that unbare land, it disturbs the soil a lot. It causes those soil particles to bounce out of where they are originally located and transported elsewhere. So grass species like this, grass cover crops like this, will minimize the impact or the kinetic energy that the raindrops exerts into the soil and causes dispersion of the soil into other areas. Not only that, but such erosion effects, when the soil is disturbed, those soil particles can be broken into tiny particles that will form crust that originally blocks the water infiltration surface within the soil, so it inhibits water from infiltrating into the soil. But when you have grass cover crops like this, it's going to minimize such impacts. So the importance of having this in your garden is that the water infiltration status of your soil is going to be enhanced. It means water will penetrate deep down into the soil with a lot of ease. And if water is infiltrating well into the soil, the rate or the amount of runoff within that area is going to decrease by a very big margin. So you will not have runoff in form of erosion taking place in your land. And as you know, erosion contributes to around 80% of degradation, and it causes the soil to lose its fertility as quick as possible. So when you have this, it's going to help in improving that soil fertility. This grass species is going to trap the sediments that is going to flow in case what runoff takes place. Is going to trap such sediments and traps the nutrients by taking the nutrients that is running in the runoff and capturing it within its biomass. So all the nitrogen that could have leached down into the soil is going to be captured by the roots of this grass cover crop, or instead of sediments running away downstream, is going to be captured as well around the roots of these grass cover crops. So cover crops like this can be incorporated into the soil as green manure, but you can also cut it down and use it as a surface mulch, depending on the purpose for which you want to use. But like I said, for us in this farm, it's used mainly for making hay, and it's usually planted at times when we know we are not going to use our garden for maybe for horticultural crops. So we usually alternate the horticultural crops or leguminous crops with the cover crops. So those residues that are incorporated into the soil, the green manure, helps also a lot in improving the fertility status of the soil. And one other thing that I have to say is that usually after planting a grass species like this, if you want to plant something else within that soil, you will have to add some degree of nitrogen, because grass cover crops like this causes a lot of immobilization. So the nitrogen status of the soil will not be as much as if it was purely leguminous crops. So legumes like this one, if you have legumes as your cover crops, is going to help a lot with fixing direct nitrogen into your soil. But this does not mean grass cover crops like this don't fix nitrogen. They help in the capturing of nitrogen that could have been leached off within their biomass, but also within their roots. Usually there is what they call rhizophagy that is taking place within the roots of such cover crops, not only for grass species, but even for legumes as well. So in that rhizophagy, there's usually an association between the bacteria or the soil fungus that is in the soil with the roots of such cover crops. And in the process, there is a lot of exchange of nutrients in that. The bacteria will enter into the root of the cover crops and is going to release nutrients through a series of chemical processes that take place within the roots of those of the cover crops. But another thing that is going to happen is that the bacteria will also aid in the growth and the maintenance of the health of these crops, because it's going to promote the development of root hairs of these crops. So you will find that within a garden like this, a series of biological activity is taking place, and that will help in the maintenance of your soil fertility status. So instead of leaving soil bare like we usually do in Africa, in some other parts of the world, you would want to plant a cover crop so that the fertility status of your soil is going to maintain, and you are going to reduce soil erosion, which is a very big headache when it comes to soil fertility management. So, like I said before, when you have legumes as your cover crops and you're planting the next crop into your field, you don't really have to add nitrogen. If you are adding, it has to be very little, because these cover crops, when it's leguminous in nature, is going to fix a lot of nitrogen into that soil. But when you have the grass species, you can add your nitrogen, especially after doing a soil test. So these cover crops, in summary, helps us a lot when it comes to improving the water infiltration of the soil, improving the soil organic matter, retaining nutrients and trapping sediments and runoff within the soil. And in that process, the phosphorus that could have run off with running excess water will be trapped off and absorbed within the plant. But the nitrogen that could have also leached down will also be captured within these plant roots and incorporated into the plant. So in that way, we avoid the loss of nutrients, but then we also keep our nutrients within the soil. And not only that, but the general health of the plant, the general health of the soil, the soil food web is going to be so good. So I would advise that let's at least incorporate the use of cover crops in our planting seasons, in our plants, in our work plans, in whatever we are doing, be it whether you are an animal farmer or a crop farmer. It is usually very important to include cover crops. Dear viewers, let me come to the end of this video. Please do not forget to like, to subscribe, and to share with your friends so that they get this little piece of information about the use of cover crops.